All right, and welcome everybody to another episode of the Most Important Conversations. My name is Chad Lefevre. I'm the founder of the Most Important Conversations, and we're kind of having a bit of a reset here. We had this podcast running for the last year or so, and we covered a series of different topics, and we are moving into a new phase of our podcast where we're going to start featuring a bunch of guests, as well as doing some direct to camera conversations and covering some different topics. And today I actually want to start with a foundational topic that is absolutely essential to us and our work at the Most Important Conversations. So we talk about the Most Important Conversations, or TMIC, as being an organization where we are committed to having the most important conversations that humanity needs to be having at this all important and critical moment in human history. Those include conversations that we have with ourselves, have with others, and conversations are really how human beings socially construct reality. So it's important that we as creators, which human beings are naturally at their essence, we are creators, that we are having the appropriate and most important conversations with ourselves about what it fundamentally not only means to be human in this age of artificial intelligence, but also asking the question, what does it mean for me to be human? What is important for me? What is the essence of who I am? I want to propose today on this podcast that the most important thing that any human being can do is connect to themselves as a creator of their life. When we usually think of creativity, we tend to think of creativity as this thing for art or for music or for film, or, we tend to think of the arts, but those are just expressions of an inherent essence that is the definition of what it means to be human, which is to be a creator. And the thing that we create more than anything, without even realizing it, is our life. That we are always in the creation mode of creating our life, whether we realize it or not. Most of us are creating a life by default. And as a result, most of us are tolerating our life by default. Few of us have stepped into our power as a creator and created a life by design. By design means that it is connected to our intention, it is aligned with our essence, and it is the thing that makes us thrive and brings us joy. Most of us are living lives by default that we are merely tolerating and maybe surviving, but most of us are not thriving. And in this moment of change that we live in, we're going to start to see, I believe, a total societal breakdown, because the constructs, the systems, the structures that we have all relied on as normal life for decades now, for the better part of 100 or more so years, are starting to be radically transformed. The things that we thought we could count on are being radically transformed. Whether that's the institutions, whether that's how we relate to the economy, whether that's how we relate to each other in terms of roles, responsibilities that we're all playing. Everything is being transformed right now. And the thing about human beings is we don't do change very well. In fact, we do it awful. And the reason is because our brain views any kind of change, as a threat to its existence. It's an unknown. And the unknown for our brains, until mastered, is insecure. And so change creates an insecurity. Our brain sees change as the unknown. That creates this insecurity. And we will do whatever we can to obfuscate and prevent change at all costs. Even looking outside of ourselves and blaming others for what's happening in our life and what's going on. And we see a lot of blame going on right now. We see whether it's left, right, conservative, liberal, everyone is pointing fingers. Everyone is blaming someone else. Everyone is effectively living life as a victim. They are basically saying, I am at a loss of power. I am not responsible for what's happening in the world. I'm not responsible for what's happening in my life. I'm certainly not responsible for how I'm responding to what's happening to my life. In fact, most people are living lives from a place of default where they are an unconscious, walking, habitual reaction to everything that happens in their life. It occurs to them, for most people right now, that life is happening to them. And so you see this reaction, this reactivity that is going on right now between all the different quote unquote sides. And this is just a wrong view of what is actually happening, because the reality is we are all creators who have created the conditions for what's happening to be happening. Maybe we weren't born when the systems and structures like the banking systems, the political systems, the societal systems and structures were created. But for those of us who are adults, we've all been voting to reaffirm and continue these things. And now they're all being challenged. And we're having this moment in time where people are starting to freak out, point fingers at one another, blame one another, and not look at themselves. So the key to transformation, to get into a place where you are connecting to your source essence as creator, and you are coming from a place of power, is that we have to be liberated from the conditions, from the conditioning that we have all been born into. There's this question that Buddhist monks ask, which is, who were you when you were born? This is an inquiry. All of us were not who we currently are in our conditioning when we were born. We learned these things. We learned how to be and who to be in and of the world. Our friends, family, and community modeled or taught us or even directed us to do this and not that. Get in line, follow the rules, be like this. You can win at the game if you approach life this way. This is our conditioning. And the reaction that most people are inside of right now, because the change and uncertainty in our society is now happening so fast and changing and transforming every aspect of life, whether you're talking about artificial intelligence, whether you're talking about a total rethinking of societal political structures, a total rethinking of economic structures. And none of these things are separate from the other. They all tug and pull and push on each other, because we are an interconnected species. We are interconnected with ourselves. We are interconnected with each other. We are interconnected with the systems. And so it can be quite complex. If we try to look outside of ourselves and change this or that in the system or the structure, if we try to change the conditions without first going within and changing ourselves, this is a losing battle. And it's going to lead to all kinds of frustration. So we have to, in this moment, instead of looking outside of ourselves and blaming others and pointing fingers at others and going to war with each other, hit the pause button and ask the question, who am I and how am I contributing to this situation of the reactions that people are having to this moment of change, or even to the change itself? How am I contributing to this? And second, how can I get connected to my own source of creative power so that I can be a positive, effective source of change? Change is happening, whether we like it or not. I can either resist change, rebel against change, fight change, and therefore fight everyone else and the system, or I can actually take a more elegant approach, see and understand that I myself am a creator, that I have created everything in my life. And you might say, no, I didn't. I have all these things that have happened to me that I don't like. Just because you like or don't like something doesn't mean that you were at cause actually affecting it being created. It may have been a decision you made 10 years ago that led to another decision that led to another decision, like a bunch of breadcrumbs. But we have all arrived where we are in our life because of choices and decisions that we have made, and other people have interacted with us and our decision making. And this is the effect of those choices we made. Another way to put at it is, if you had made a choice 15 years ago, and I'm not suggesting anyone should do this, but just as a thought experiment, If you had made the choice to never leave your house 15 years ago and to never speak to anyone, you would have a very different life than you have now. So your choice to interact with the world and to interact in the way that you interacted with the world, and the choices you subsequently made in those interactions and other people made in the interactions with you, have created the conditions that has landed you in the position of life where you are today. This is not to say you are to blame. This is not a blame thing. When I say you are responsible for everything that is happening in your life, that doesn't mean you're to blame. It just means that you were a variable and party in the equation that led to the outcome, which is the life you're living in. And most of us find ourselves in the life we're living in, and we look around and we say, this isn't the life I thought I was going to have. This isn't the life I want. And on top of that, we're now having all this societal change coming at us, which is just adding complexity to the whole thing. And we feel overwhelmed. Most of us have actually been conditioned in the conditioning of our society to be human doings and not human beings. A human doing is someone who is preoccupied with being in action and doing things and usually what happens is this becomes a distraction to actually going within and knowing who you are intrinsically at your core, which is a creator. So as a human doing, you're still creating, but you're creating the conditions to get lost in the doing and not to be sourcefully aligned and intentionally creating your life by design. Most of us have been rewarded for human doing. We are inside of a culture that most of us were born into, where we have been told if you just follow the rules and you do the so-called right things, you do the right things. We don't care who you are as a being, just do the right things. And the right things are usually tied to our behaviors and to our choices. For example, we're rewarded to go get a job and do that job, do the things that that job requires, and you will be paid. And that's the social contract or the agreement. And with AI now, a lot of those social contracts for doing are starting to break down because AI can do a lot of the doing. So, I always say the biggest mental health crisis, which I believe we are on the verge of a mental health crisis, the likes of which we are unprepared for because of the sheer scale and exponential nature of the change we are dealing with, changing every dynamic, every system, every structure, every condition in our society. That we are on the verge of a mental health crisis, the likes of which we are unprepared for. And I'll articulate it another way. The greatest mental health crisis that we are about to face is the one where human doings lose their identity for what they do and have never asked themselves or inquired who they are as a being at their source. Most people don't know themselves, and yet we know from time immemorial that this is the most important question. You want to talk about the most important conversation? It begins with the most important question you can ask yourself. Who am I? Socrates says, know thyself. Nietzsche said there is nothing more important than having the pleasure of knowing yourself, knowing where you're coming from, knowing why you think what you would think. Being the creator designer of your belief system, not just consuming it and inheriting it from friends, family, and community and the outside, but generating, being a self-generator, a creator of your belief system, which affects your perception and your experience of reality. If you believe it, you will perceive it. If you believe it, you will perceive it. Whatever you believe, you will perceive in the world. So we're responsible for our belief systems. We're responsible, not blame, but we're responsible for our belief systems. We're responsible for our perception of how we relate to reality. And I know this can sound overly philosophical, but it has incredibly pragmatic and practical ramifications, which we are witnessing in the world right now. We are witnessing a world where the unrestrained, undesigned, uncurated human ego of most of us is on full display, freaking out, warring with one another, hating on one another, blaming one another, operating like a victim because we refuse to go within and look at ourselves and understand who am I and what is really important. We have inherited the conditioning of our friends, family, and community. They inherited the conditioning from their friends, family, and community, and then our great-grandparents and their great-great-grandparents all inherited this conditioning. It just keeps being passed on from generation to generation to generation. And we have an opportunity right now to draw a line because the systems, the structures are all coming down around us anyway. There's no point in trying to save it. But there is a point in trying to recreate what's possible now, where human beings can thrive, where we can live lives by design, where we can be fully alive. But it means drawing a line and cutting that cord to the past of our parents and their parents and their parents and their parents, and stop consuming the way they did life, stop consuming the ideas, consuming the structures, consuming the belief systems that came before us, and start fresh. Who are you? What do you believe? Why do you believe it? Who taught you that? Why do you believe them? Belief is not knowledge. Belief is belief. You believe something to be the case, and then it affects your perception. If you believe it, you'll perceive it, and then you see it out in the world. You see what you believe in action. It's called confirmation bias. And so all that we've done generationally is pass down all of these system structures, this conditioning, these constructs. And, my mom tells me, my father tells me, this is how life is. This is what's important. Believe this, believe that. Don't do this, don't do that. We're children. We've got no experience. We've got no capacity to push back on it and suggest that may not be who we are or what we align with or what's important to us. So we just consume it. We accept it and we become that. And we have this thing called the midlife crisis for a reason. Used to be a midlife crisis happened when you reached a certain amount of life experience and you started questioning your values, your belief systems, your doing. You started questioning your job, your relationships. But now, because we're having systemic and structural change happening at such a rapid pace, everyone is on the verge of a midlife crisis, even if they're not in midlife. We're having a crisis of identity. And you can see it with the obsession of identity. Again, I'll say it. The crisis, the mental health crisis we are unprepared for is the one where human doings lose their identity for what they do. I'm an engineer, I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor. And I'm not able to do that stuff anymore or for much longer because artificial intelligence is going to take it over. We look at the rise of identity politics. I'm right, I'm left, I'm conservative, I'm liberal. I'm straight, I'm gay, I'm trans. I mean, people just started making up identities during the pandemic, the furries and all of this. I mean, people are losing their mind because they've lost their identity for what they do, and they had never inquired who they are as a being. So they're literally making this stuff up. They're literally just scrounging for anything that gives them some sense of comfort. But this is not powerful. This is living life as a victim. And so you can look at this exponential change, this moment we're dealing with right now. You can look at it from the perspective of being a victim. Oh, isn't it unfortunate? What are we going to do? I ask the question, who are you going to be about it? And so I'd like to invite those who are ready to take that inquiry on, who are ready to stand in their power, who are ready to no longer be a victim, no longer get sucked in to the malaise, the cacophony of noise and identity politics. Invite you to come and join a community that we have set up precisely to meet this moment, to develop you as a creator of your life, You may be on the verge, or maybe you have already lost your job. You may need to become an entrepreneur. You may need to become self-employed. Or even if you have a job, you may be anxious about all of the challenges and all of the warring and the angst and the dislocation that you're sensing we as a society are starting to feel. I would like to invite you to the most important conversations, and in particular to our program, Whole Life Architecture, where we look at the 4 architectures that constitute what it means to be human, and we work collaboratively and creatively in a community where each individual is redesigning their life by design from the essence of who they are. You decide that, we don't. We just provide the container and provide the tools for you to do that work. There's never been a better time to ask the question, what does it mean to be human? And there's never been a better time for you to ask, who am I going to be as a human? Not what am I going to do, but who am I going to be? And the doing will become self-evident and will follow, because your doing should always be the vehicle through which you deliver your being. If you're going to start a business, if you're going to become an entrepreneur, your business should be the vehicle through which you deliver your being, but you have to know who that being is. If you have a calling, you only can know your calling if you connect to your being. All of the drama, all of the angst, all of the fear, all of the violence, all of the anxiety that is starting to bubble up in society is nothing but the result and the outcome of human beings who do not know themselves. They do not know who they are, and they're pointing fingers and blaming others. They are not standing in their power as a creator of what's possible in their life. They are not creating a life by design. They are tolerating a life by default, and that life by default is falling in and caving in on everyone, because the systems and structures that life by default required are falling apart. So you can see this as defeat or an opportunity. This is your chance to go back to the essence of who you essentially are, reconnect to that, and recreate, redesign your life by design. And this is what we do in Whole Life Architecture. And if you're someone who's like thinking, gee, I might need to become an entrepreneur, I haven't lost my job yet, or maybe you have lost your job, and how am I going to make money? How am I going to pay my mortgage? We have another program that's based on that same Whole Life Architecture curriculum called Business by Design, specifically tailored to helping people launch, create and launch and deploy their business, their product, their service, their brand. Maybe you've never thought of this. If you were an employee, you probably don't have the skills to do that, but you can learn them. It's not hopeless. And you will be in Whole Life Architecture and Business by Design. We are here as a community to support those, so you don't have to feel at a loss of power. So you don't have to feel like all is hopeless. So you don't have to wait for some authority figure to tell you what to do. We have divested ourselves, because of our conditioning, we have divested ourselves of our own intrinsic creative power based on connecting to who we are at the essence of who we are as a being, to align our doing with that. Instead, we look outside of ourselves and ask other people, authority figures, what should I do? Who should I be? We're all infantile until we're not, until we've mastered this. No one should tell you who you ought to be, and no one should be telling you what you ought to do with your life. That's just living life as a victim. So being liberated from our conditioning is a gift. And it's a gift that we would like to present to you and invite to you to join us in Whole Life Architecture. You can go to tmicglobal.com and learn more about what we're doing, you can join Whole Life Architecture. You can join Business by Design. We also have a free community membership. If you're not ready yet and you're not sure if this is for you, we have calls twice a month for those interested in getting to know what we're up to. Don't be alone in this moment. Don't feel at a loss of power. Don't be a victim. And don't get sucked into the negativity and the hate and the anxiety and the war that is starting to emerge. That is just more children letting their egos run the show. They are not connected to their power. They are blaming others. They are victimizing others. And you do not have to play that game. So as I wrap up on this podcast, we're going to be featuring hundreds of world-class leading thinkers and guests on our TMIC podcast in the coming weeks and months. You're going to see more direct-to-camera talks from myself and some others on our team. And we invite you to start to live life through a place of creative collaboration with people who care about the outcome for you, who care about holding space for you, who care about providing you with the mechanisms and the tools for you to move from a human doing back into a human being. And if you don't believe me when I say that, ask yourself this question when you meet someone for the first time. What's the most common question you will ask? You'll ask, what do you do? If you don't think we're obsessed with doing, why would that be the first question we ask people? So what do you do? It's because we've been trained to think that way. We've been conditioned to be small, to feel powerless. And now, since all of these systems and structures are starting to break down, what better time to hit the pause button and reassert and reassert your power and redefine who you're going to be in the world. That is the opportunity. And we invite you to join us in Whole Life Architecture and Business by Design, or just generally in the Most Important Conversations free community. Go to tmicglobal.com, and we would love to have you there, and we would love to see you, and we would love to journey with you. You can also find us on our social media, on our different media channels. Until then, I'm wishing you all the best, and I hope to meet you and journey with you at some point very soon. Thanks so much.